And Pearl. Pearl is the prequel film to the film X, which was directed by Ty West. This is also directed by Ty West as well. Pearl is, and both of us reviewed X. I did it first. Nick did a little bit later. You can watch that on YouTube right now. Our review for X is up there. Both of us liked it. I enjoyed the movie. A lot of people were saying that was the best horror movie of the year when X came out.
I think when I initially reviewed it, I gave it a very strong tune in. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've rewatched, I got to give it This Is Cinema, especially because it's currently sitting at number 5 of my best of.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you had that movie that came out, and that movie came out. I mean, I was kind of not as high on. I didn't think it was the best horror movie when it came out of the year. Some people even saying like of the last 5 or 10 years, it was kind of there. I'm like,
that's a little hyperbolic.
But yeah, a lot of people really high on the movie. It came out back in March. That's why another reason why I'm like, dude, it's only March. Like, you gonna say this is the best horror movie of the year and it's only March? Okay.
Yeah, and the story of how this movie came about is kind of insane because Ty West was like, they shot X in the middle of COVID in New Zealand, and in Ty West, Mia Goth, they were just like shooting the shit about the character of Pearl. So eventually, they just said, you know what, let's fuck it, write a script. And by the time that X wrapped up, they had a little bit of leftover money from the budget. So West just reached out to A24. It was like, hey, we got a little bit more money. We can just like use a lot of the same cast. We use the same crew. We still have the same locations. Mind if I like make another movie while I'm down here? And they said, fuck it.
Yeah. And the third movie is going to be coming up called Maxine. So to finish out
that's following the younger Mia Goth character from X as she goes to LA.
Yeah. So to complete the trilogy, they're going to do that. Yeah, they're going to continue with the character of Mia Goth. So Mia Goth is here in Pearl, who, like I said, she had a big input on this movie. She co-wrote it with Ty West. And it is all about, if you've watched X, this is going to be a spoiler a little bit if you haven't seen that movie. So if you haven't seen X or whatever, so this is going to just to let people know. So in that movie, it dealt with a group of people coming to a farm, and on that farm had 2 older people, and then which was whom had the woman named Pearl, who was the older woman, who was Mia Goth in old age makeup, who I didn't know at first that was Mia Goth. And like usually sometimes when you put younger actors in old age makeup, you can kind of tell like, oh, it's a young actor in old age makeup. But I could not tell that was a younger actor in old age makeup.
Yeah, the makeup job on that is seamless. And it's kind of insane watching that, especially because a lot of the themes that X was dealing with was the fear of getting older and like the regret of a life, and the fact that this older couple were jealous of the youth and the fact that their futures were open. And the more I'm just gonna go on at X. Please continue, Josh.
Yeah. So you kind of had that kind of going on in the X movie there. So this is focusing on the life of Pearl, kind of going all the way back in 1918. And so it's following who is still played by Mia Goth. And it's kind of following her living on this farm, dealing with her mother, a German mother, and father who is just incapacitated in a wheelchair, can't do anything but just kind of move his eyes, just completely there.
It's a father who's an invalid, and the fact that they're originally from Germany, and this is like in the middle of World War One.
Yeah,
it adds some interesting tension to that entire family dynamic, and also the fact that her mother is so overbearing and so like disciplinarian with Pearl.
Yeah, and her mother, by the way, did a fantastic job, I thought. And there's a lot of really good scenes in this movie, just dramatic scenes as well, that kind of remind you of something like Hereditary, you know what I mean, or kind of something like that. Just that power that it kind of had, and I thought that was kind of very well done. And Mia Goth in this movie, her and X, I thought her performance, it was like, it was okay. It was kind of like, I think X's it's like, okay, your throwback type slasher movie that you
Mhm.
kind of did there, almost like something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This one, I think, is really more of a character study of
Mhm.
somebody. It really kind of really showcases Mia Goth's talent. And you see, I mean, this is really her movie. I mean, really through and through.
Oh, 100%. This is the if you weren't sold on Mia Goth as an actor before X or even Pearl, this movie is gonna sell you because there's a moment in the 3rd act where it's like a almost like 6-minute long monologue that's all done in a single take, and the range of emotions that Mia Goth goes through as the monologue and the story she tells gets more and more deranged and fucked up. It's incredible. My jaw was on the floor watching it.
Yeah, I mean, she knocks it out of the park in this movie. And you kind of really see her talent on display. And really, I haven't really seen much of Mia Goth myself, and
Mhm.
really many things like we talked about X, but have you seen her much in other projects?
I've seen her around in other projects, and she's kind of in in that realm of an actor where she is a very young, she is a very beautiful actor, but she's not really going for a lot of the projects that a lot of younger actors go for. She's not going for like the superhero movies or like the big budget like tent pole stuff. She just likes doing a lot of these weird fucking like small movies, like stuff like Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria movie, Gore Verbinski's Cure for Wellness. She was in Emma.
Yeah. Yeah, she's had an interesting career, and kind of been around as kind of this, you know what I mean, kind of more going for more indie movies or just going for more interesting projects that kind of she sees fit, maybe it kind of interest her.
Mhm.
And so I was really, you know what I mean, kind of thrown aback by this. And to bring some kind of other people, like you said, following like you said with X of her character, the two older people really being jealous of the younger people, of them their futures being more wide open and them having this freedom to
Mhm.
kind of go wherever. And you see this movie of it adds a lot more context to X. Of
Mhm.
you see kind of a lot of that resentment and where it's from and where this anger is from, and you know what I mean. Every villain has a villain origin story, of villain backstory that you can kind of trace back to. And this is Pearls, and you see why she is the way she is, and you see kind of what led to those
Mhm.
things. And in the movie, you also see kind of different Easter eggs and stuff like that from throwback to the movie, X, and
Mhm.
things that if you watch it, you'll see like, oh, that's from this, and this is from that, and what happened. Like the alligator, like you mentioned, that was a big part of the first movie there. Who's her pet alligator there. So you kind of see that here. So you'll see some things, you know what I mean, kind of pop up in this that if you've seen X, they're very reminiscent of. Is there anything? So what were kind of main things you loved about it and you kind of disliked about it with this?
Well, well, yeah, comparing this to X, they're two completely different styles of film, which is really fascinating. Whereas X was more of a throwback to like slasher films of the 70s, just with, better production value, a much more talented cast, and definitely something more to say. Whereas this film, its aim is to be almost like a twisted version of something like The Wizard of Oz, because I think that there's a huge Wizard of Oz inspiration with this. And a lot of what Ty West, I think he's trying to say about this is like the impact that Hollywood has on the youth, and how we eventually just become so obsessed with fame to where that idea can be so toxic, especially because we have the benefit of seeing this character like 60 years later. We know she doesn't make it off the farm, which is just kind of tragic about this film. And it reminded me a lot of watching something like Better Call Saul or even Orphan First Kill throughout this film.
Yeah. 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 I mean, these are two different films. And the method in which this was done, is kind of very interesting. Both of the movies released in the same year. They kind of just was like a
And
surprise.
and this film was mostly shot in secret, which is really fascinating. And there's an element just tying back to today's times, because this is set during the Spanish influenza epidemic.
Yeah, and I like how they kind of make that connection there, kind of between. It kind of gives it a more kind of modern feeling, kind of what's going on today, and then all the way back then, which was nice. And yeah, you see, kind of she wants to be make it off this farm, living this life, this kind of mundane type of life. You know what I mean? Kind of stuck taking care of her father, who's in this wheelchair, who's an invalid. Kind of with this overbearing mother, because you're almost in a way kind of rooting for it in a way. You know what I mean? It's like I kind of want to see her make it off there, but she's so damn crazy that it's like, okay, maybe it's good that your craziness is kind of contained in just one space. Maybe that's better, because she wants to get out by way of dancing. She wants to kind of go into this a kind of talent group that's coming through town picking girls to dance, like a chorus dancer, right? Or
yeah, it's like a chorus dancer for, like, I think they said it's like a USO tour.
Yeah, so she kind of wants to end up doing that, and that's the way she's kind of going to be able to get off the farm and finally see the world. And then you have her husband, who she married as well, who's off on war fighting in World War I right now. You see in the movie. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have these kind of different elements kind of going on, and it's like, what is she gonna do? And the person really introducing her to the more bigger, broader things, in life is a character who's he's not given a name, but he's just called a projectionist. He's not given a name, but the person that she loves to go to the pictures, see movies, imagine her, self in kind of a different place when she does so.
Yeah, who's played by David Cornsweet, who was in that Ryan Murphy show, Hollywood. Who, how do I put this? If you look up the word Giga Chad in the dictionary, I'm pretty sure a picture of him will just pop up.
Yeah, he definitely has that look. He's going, especially that look of like the thin with the thin mustache and everything like that. You kind of see him very, kind of 1918, 1920s type of look there, kind of going on. Yeah, who he kind of introduces her to more bigger, kind of broader things, kind of going on, and what it means and being a star, and she's somebody, he's somebody that she's able to talk to about these things, about kind of wanting to escape, which I thought was very nice. But yeah, I very much did enjoy this movie. I'd say my only kind of complaints about it. I can't think of any really strong complaints about it. I think some nitpicky stuff here and there. What about you? Do you have any really big, strong complaints?
I do have one complaint, and it kind of ties into the end of the movie and how they deal with the character of Howard. Because he's barely in it, but for like a couple minutes of screen time. And I don't see how the character we meet in X and this guy that we meet in this film connect. Because he's largely separated from a lot of Pearl's antics throughout the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Of seeing more of like, kind of what happened there in that relationship. Would have been something to kind of maybe, discover a little bit more of. You could have went into depth of. I think that, I guess one of the nitpicky thing is the fact that, I mean, in this movie, I mean, I guess it's no spoiler that she's gonna be doing some killing. You know what I mean? She's gonna be kind of doing some killing and quite a bit of it.
Yeah, they show right off the bat in this very disturbing scene where she's like playing around with the farm animals. It's kind of like Wizard of Oz, as we mentioned. But then I think a goose like throws off her timing, and she just like murders the shit out of it and starts to feed it to a pet alligator.
Yeah, I mean, you can see like something was always really kind of off with her a little bit, which I like. And
yeah, I like that this isn't a story about a mentally unstable character snapping. This is just, yeah, they were fucked up from jump.
Yeah, yeah. So there's always kind of something a little off about that. I just, like I said, with the killing stuff, it's like, I guess you kind of just got to go with it. Horror movie, this is like does a lot of killing and like. Nobody comes up to kind of, what I mean, to investigate or talk about it or anything like that. It's just kind of just murder after murder. It's
also like middle of pandemic, and I think we're looking at a lot of it through modern lenses, and just what technology is around. They wouldn't have fucking found shit.
No. That's possibly a good point. So yeah, I give this a tune in. I give this a strong tune in myself. I thought, really, I'm like I said, really impressed by Mia Goth's performance in this. I thought she did a really great job. And a lot of good camera with the kills. And I think it feels like such a movie separate on its own, from X, and it's not just trying to. I think X, yeah, like I said, throwback, but this one really what it does with the style of how colorful it looks. Almost people have
Mhm.
compared to like something like colorful as like Wizard of Oz with the kind of like the colors and even the
Oh,
introduction of it. With a lot of stuff they do with classic films with like the
mhm.
end that pops up on screen and the white letters and everything like that. I think
Yeah,
that was
even
kind of nice.
even even the kind of like grainy quality of like the title cards that show up throughout the introduction of the movie. Even like towards like the bottom of the screen, you see like the trademarked by whatever picture house is producing this.
Yeah, so I thought that was a nice touch on it.
Mhm.
And just even, her body movements, her smile, her looks are also very great in it. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I give it a strong 2. What about you?
I give this a strong tune in as well. I think that if this film didn't have the award boards fucking hate horror or anything even associated with, and I think if we remove that bias against horror, and if this movie was released like around November, Mia Goth is in talks for Best Actress because this
Mm,
performance is amazing. I think the film it's so visually distinctive from X that you don't really need to have seen X prior to watching this movie. It helps your viewing experience. It gives you a little more context to it. It adds that much more tragic element towards the third act about Pearl's backstory. But it's not really necessary viewing. There are some Easter eggs, but those are just like, hey, remember this from the.
mm,
But I think yes, I appreciated that this film looks the way it does, it paying tribute to those Technicolor films of back in the day, of stuff like Wizard of Oz,
mm,
including just I think what Ty West does with both this and X, he wants to make one of those movies, but just bringing a lot of our modern sensibilities to it.
mm. Okay,
Which
yeah.
I think he which I think he does masterfully, including the score, which is done by Tyler Bates, which it feels so much like you're watching one of those, like, 40s Technicolor films. It's brilliant. I loved this movie. I would have to see it again in relation to X to see which one I like more, but right now it's a dead heat.
I think I like this better than X for me.
Mhm.
I think I like this better than X. And
I
Maxine
think this I
is coming up.
I think this is a much more ambitious project than X. Just in terms of the manner in which it was made, which if you hear the story behind the making of this movie, you automatically are kind of coming in with a little bit of baggage. Just like, all right, this was like shot in secret while they were finished shooting another movie. There's no way that this movie is going to be as good as it. And Ty West said,
Uh,
"Want to watch me fucking do it a third time, bitch?"
which Ty West, I haven't really paid attention to anything he's done since really House of the Devil, which I was a big fan of. That movie came out all the way back in '09, I believe. And I was a big fan of that movie, but everything else since then has kind of been kind of, you know what I mean? I've heard it's not been very good, but I have to check it out for myself.
Yeah, he's had a lot of hits and misses, but West is kind of one of those filmmakers where even if it's not like great quality stuff, it's still very ambitious. Whereas like towards the later films of his career prior to X, he was kind of like restricted by studios. It was like, yo, you can't get as weird or as abstract as you want to do, which I feel like he's getting back into working with A24 and with X, and especially with this film.
Nice. So that was Pearl, and we got 2 strong tune ins for it.